most chemical dense extraction possible is ready as when needed, because it's really helpful that as soon as you feel your immune system response to a pathogen that you start taking plant medicine. It can speed the healing and recovery process.
So you're processing plants or leaves differently than barks and roots with a different duration of... Can you talk about that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead and ask that question again.
Yeah, I was just curious about, you mentioned that you're processing leaves and barks and roots differently with a different duration of time, that there's, you let them sit, and can you talk about that? Right.
So you can make an infusion out of leaves and flowers, and an infusion only takes an hour to 12 hours to pull out the medicinal properties of the plant or flower. To pull out the plant qualities of a root or bark, it has to be boiled or, slash simmered or soaked in hot water or even cold water for 12 to 24 hours. And then to pull out the medicinal qualities. And those vary from plants, but you cannot extract all the medicine out of a root in just soaking it in hot water. You're wasting the root. It's not a bad thing. If I really needed it, I guess I would do it in an hour, but it's most efficient to simmer it for a longer period of time to draw out all the nutrients. And that's why, so the different things are called teas, infusion. A tea, we can go to the store and we can buy teas. Well, you can take that tea bag from the store and soak it for 12 hours, and now you have an infusion. Or if you buy dandelion root at the store, you can simmer it for an hour, and then you have a decoction. But it's the same plant, you're just treating it differently. You could take that dandelion root tea bag, and you could take it out of the bag and soak it in alcohol or apple cider vinegar and make a tincture. Dandelion, I love dandelion, and it came to Alaska with immigrants bringing their crops from the old world, these domesticated varieties of plants. Dandelion grows in the gardens, and then that spread into the landscape, right? It's in our national parks and at the end of every road in Alaska. Well, dandelion's very special because it's edible, the whole plant. The flower is an edible. You can bread it and fry it. The leaves, the young leaves, are a great salad green or a spinach alternative. The root is so important. It helps us support and nurture the liver. Well, liver energetically, when we look at the energetics of our body, we talk about the liver being the organ that helps us process anger. And dandelion is the herb that supports the liver. And this is some of the, the energetics here in Alaska is, processing the anger. There's trauma and anger, and it's wrapped up together. And dandelion is here to help us navigate speaking truth to the anger and healing, understanding and transforming it. So we can work together to go forward. We cannot do this work alone as human beings. We never have. And so the future holds us working together in unification rather than separation. So that's one of the ways plants help us work on our emotional body. People come to the plants because of a physical ailment, and part of the healing is looking at the emotional, spiritual, and mental aspects of that ailment. And part of that's personal, and part of it is collective. It's the family, and then it's the society that we're within.
I find that connection very interesting, and I'm grateful that you brought it up. I don't think we hear much about the kind of emotional healing power of certain plants and herbs. Mostly we hear about, the physical ailments that certain herbs can or plants can address or work on. Can you talk more about that?
There's many ways to look at how plants can support us emotionally. And so I'll bring up the colors of flowers. The edible flowers all come in a whole rainbow of colors. And so then we could then look at emotions. So if our heart is ailing us, like we have heartache, or our heart is sick, which we could call high blood pressure or heart disease, we would look at flowers like the rose, which is connected to love, that beautiful color pink, but also like a pink red. So the rose is solidly connected to love and the heart. The color yellow is related to our urinary system, right? Symbolically, the color yellow. When I was growing up, it was don't eat yellow snow. As the joke, we would sing something on the playground. But when we're looking at plant medicine, it turns out that goldenrod, which is a yellow flower, is good for the kidneys. The kidneys are emotionally connected to annoyance, the emotion of annoyance. So that's using colors and flowers. Another thing that comes to my mind around emotions is awareness of the emotion that we're having and the meaning we're giving the experience, that an outcome of which is the emotion. It requires awareness. So on the journey, most people don't do this practice. It occurs once you're in the process of healing and transformation, is to cultivate awareness of where you're at emotionally, what triggers an emotion, follow that emotion back to the first time it happened, and then all the stories of why and how it expressed and how did it serve us that this happened for us. We get to a point in our healing process where it's safe and compassionate to say, this happened for me to grow. It was challenging, it was traumatic, but it happened for me. And part of this meaning making shifts the reaction to the trigger. And then we can use plant medicine as a substance as part of the healing process. So it almost doesn't matter which plant medicine you use. If you're using it with intention to support the meaning making and the process of healing and transformation, then that itself is what you designate the plant to help you with. Modern medicine might call that a placebo, but we call this plant intelligence and reciprocal relationship with the plants, that we make an agreement that I'm going to drink, this rose and nettle tea through my process of healing and understanding. So we can pick a plant that is helpful for underlying physical conditions. So maybe I'm starting this journey and I have some stomach concerns. That's the physical piece that brought me to the traditional healer. And so you would get fireweed tea, which is helpful for the stomach, but then also the homework of looking at your life story. And there's many, many other ways to do it. That's how I've been doing the work most recently, is in meaning making, shifting perspectives. Another way is through, looking at what I'm intolerant to in my life. If I'm averse and turning away from something all the time, why? What is that? Can I sit in that discomfort just a little longer in order to have more control over that turning away from? So sit in the cold just a little longer and be cold. Sit in the heat just a little longer and start to train my senses.
Yeah, to create some more space between stimulus and response, and to allow us to kind of sit in that space. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm intrigued by what you said about plants and the intention that we use them with, or that we work with them, and how plants can have different effects on depending on the intention that we use them with, or the agreement that we make with them. I find that very intriguing. It takes us, I think, from the biochemical level of analyzing medicinal and properties of plants to just a different level of working with them. Can you say something more about that?
Right. I feel that these the old stories that I have been shared, that there's traditional healers that will treat all issues with one plant. So that's an old story I was told. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, how is that possible, that one plant could treat all things? And it's that relationship that the human being has with the plant and the agreement that they have with the plant to heal all things. And that story was told to me very long ago. And so I've explored it. And the exploration, it's an inner exploration. There's very little to do in the book, in reading. We're not going to read about this. It's a personal experience. You hear the story and then you practice and experiment and see. And this concept of mindfulness in the West is a weaving and blending of Eastern medicine, Eastern traditional ecological knowledge of Buddhism and Taoism for Western minds. And then when I think about mindfulness for Alaska Natives, at least for Yupik people, my ancestors, we were taught that thoughts are as powerful as words. Thoughts make the way clear in space for our thoughts to be made manifest in this reality. So basically it was a warning and a teaching quite young to be aware of our thoughts, to be mindful of what we're thinking, because other people can feel it, sense it, see it, depending on their gifts, and that it can impact other people and other than human beings. In the sense of how, well, an example of that is our thoughts could mean success for the whalers whaling, safety, and also in communicating with the whale and landing a whale. It could also mean negative thoughts could bring in a bear to camp. And so we were taught to be very mindful of our intentions, thoughts and intentions, and to clear up the thoughts. There are practice and protocol to clear up the thoughts, to clear up the energy that was static in family and community. And ways that we do that is through, music, dance, ceremony, men's house, work, and then work in the women's house, what the different genders would do in our own sacred space to clear out the static in our hearts and minds. And so that weaving that plants back into this, you can see how, building of a relationship with the plant, that a healer could have the relationship with the plant as it would treat all things. Or, depending on the quality of your thought and intention as a human being, could take one plant and intend for it to treat one thing, and then weave in music and dance and embodiment and flexibility and time on the land and the drinking of the tea and using the plant internally and externally with intention and with that cultivated presence of intention and thought for it to be support in the process. In my family's way of holding space for healing and transformation, it's just not one thing that it's a blending and a combining of modalities. It's plant medicine, it's body work, self-care, movement practices, music, creativity. That's how that happens.
Wow, thank you. There's so many ways of using plants and other tools, I guess, that are available to support our healing. It's very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to just, to finish up here, I want to go back to one thing you said at the beginning of the interview that kind of stood out for me, among many things. You said that we're here because our elders, our families knew plants, and we are survivors because of that, or people survived because of their knowledge of plants. Kind of turning that around to the future, what is your hope for the people and your children's children.
I spoke a little bit about that, and that's this unification, working together towards a common goal is my hope for the future. Where I see us right now is in a time of great transition where there's more duality right in our face than ever before, of separation and the good and the bad and the red and the blue and the rich and the poor and the this and the that, and we can't escape it, and everybody has something to say about it, and which means that fewer people are saying anything about anything because they feel they're to be attacked for sharing their perspective. And so I see us working together towards a common goal. I don't know what that'll be, but we've got some major challenges that are facing us at a time of great transition. And those concerning plant medicine particularly, plants, are our helpers, right? We would not be here without plants. We can't just eat protein. We need complex carbohydrates to thrive as human beings. And we're looking at some changes in agriculture methods that would be very beneficial for providing nutrient-dense vegetables to market versus depleted vegetables. I would like to see trade routes. Some of the concerns in rural Alaska is there are no jobs. Food is very expensive, and I'd really love to see native corporations providing jobs in harvesting traditionally harvested food, which is called like non-forest products, forest foods, because these are nutrient dense. It would create jobs. It would create that revitalization of traditional ecological knowledge, orientation by stars, making the old boats, and that is very hopeful for the youth to have purpose other than playing video games or watching television or videos of cultures far, far away that we may never see, that we definitely don't look like, and we may never participate in. So to create opportunity on the land, in the villages in rural Alaska that provides food and summer jobs for the young ones, which is purpose in life. How fun. I got to do that growing up. My parents took me out onto the land. I would spend weeks at a time on the land, and that was one of the things that made me a solid human being. And then there's also, this part of me that says, even this is divine order, and we're expressing exactly as we need to express in order to grow, and that we don't have to do anything, which we're doing enough, and we're making such remarkable change and transformation. I'm very proud of our elders for their courage, and for the youth and their courage to do exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that vision. And I hope that recordings like these will be helpful for people to keep revitalizing, keep remembering. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your knowledge, your insights. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we close?
I'm thankful for the funders of this project, for seeing the long story, the deep story of capturing words of this time, honoring the elders whose words we've written and listened to over the last 50 years, that they inspired us. And I know that everybody working on this project is part of the inspiration for future generations. So thank you as well for taking time.
No, of course. Thank you so much.